My name is Nassine Saps.
Let me ask you a question. Has anything ever happened to you that you couldn't explain? That made you feel sort of foolish when you tried to tell somebody about it? Well, if it has, you have plenty of company, as you'll soon see.
On to strange things that continue in our news. I'm going to show you this picture. Now, what are we looking at? This is a picture from Brenda up in Woolsey, South Dakota. I think this was taken Saturday night. And we're looking at a little string of lights. And you're thinking, Brian, what are we looking at this for? Well, let me tell you something. Friday night, our family saw this event, or whatever this is. And it was a little unnerving. There was a string of lights, and the thing lasted for, I would say, at least a minute. And we were watching this, and we were thinking, well, what in the world is this? Well, there's a logical explanation. If you saw this or have seen it before, SPACEX has some satellites that basically do a little routine and crisscross the skyline, and it looks like this. So if you see this in future days ahead or weeks ahead, well, there's going to be more of these. So I told my children, I said, it's not aliens, it's something logical, right? But I thought when Brenda sent this in on UShare over the weekend, I'd bring it up because I have a sneaky suspicion I'm not the only one that saw that and thought that looked a little interesting in the skyline, because lack of clouds and looking around, yeah, you see some interesting things from time to time, and that's certainly one of them.
Strange lights seen over several states tonight caught a lot of people's attention, from Pahrump to Centennial Hills, all the way to Southern California. Social media was on fire as people tried to guess what those are.
Yeah, I got a lot of calls into the newsroom tonight. The explanation is not that mysterious. It was a train of Starlight satellites from SPACEX. A tracking website put the train right over Vegas at about 8:55 and said it would be, quote, bright. Well, any way you look at it, seeing something like that over the valley is pretty darn exciting.
When you enter fake news into Google, you get 1,330,000,000 hits in a paltry 0.41 seconds. Plenty to read about fake news. Here is Wikipedia's definition of fake news. It's also known as junk news or pseudo news. It's a type of yellow journalism or propaganda that consists of deliberate disinformation or hoaxes spread via traditional news media or online social media. You know, it's one thing to get a story wrong. It's another thing when you get it wrong because you're trying to put forward a certain agenda. Earlier in my life, when a news organization got a story wrong, they would retract it with the same kind of energy or emotion in which they had given the original story. Now, they'll bury it in the back of a paper near a mattress sales circular, and the retraction will sound more like, well, the story felt true. There was enough of the story that we wanted it to be true, but it just wasn't ready for broadcast, is what they might say. There's a particular radio personality I listen to quite a bit, and he says that media bias isn't what they tell you, it's what they don't tell you. It's what they don't tell you. Truth used to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me. Now, truth is a little bit more relative. It's when we get the whole truth, though, it seems like we get the whole picture, and when we get the whole picture, we go, oh, that's what that is. The central reason of why truth is no longer the truth is what can be known as the postmodern culture. The postmodern culture that has elevated personal experience to the level of truth. It defines fact. That's why how I can have my truth and you can have your truth is because my experience is different than your experience. And we've elevated then experience and feelings. We've elevated that above, we as the culture, above truth. The breakdown of truth didn't happen overnight. We didn't wake up one day and have a hard time figuring out what's true. It's happened over time. A lie, when it's first told, is easily detected as a lie, but unless someone confronts it with the truth, then it will perpetuate itself. And there's kind of a saying that says if you repeat a lie long enough and if you repeat a lie loud enough, then sooner or later you start to believe it.
Soros represents the New World Order crowd. The Rothschild, he's a Rothschild. Is he a grandson or something of Rothschild? And Rockefellers and the whole shebang of global Satan freaks. That's that whole crowd. And I've been telling you that Trump is a Mason. Christians don't want to believe it. They want to believe he was sent by God. Oh. Now you know. I want all these Christians who spend all your time listening and watching Christian YouTubers to take down the names of all the people on YouTube putting up visions and prophecies and videos about how Trump is God's chosen. And I want you to write their name down, and I want you to never read or watch a thing they say again. I'm so sick of these false prophets and false people online. Start keeping a list of all the liars and the misguided and the misjudging and the mishearing and just the plain outright lying, and stop listening to them. Seriously. Do us all a favor, because then people don't try to circulate that garbage on my Facebook, because when people do, I kick it off. I just kick it off. Trump was not sent by God. Trump is Satan's. He's Lucifer's.
So Elon endorsed me recently, the other day, actually. He's great. Elon Musk. He's a brilliant guy. Every time I call him, he's talking about, I got a new idea for a rocket. You have to hear this.
But more about what are the lies that you and I hear in our own minds about us. The lies that unless they become confronted with truth, they will repeat over and over again and louder again. It starts changing our filter of how we experience people, how we experience. And it starts shading us and changing us in a manner that even though it's not true, it has moved past feeling true. It actually is starting to come true. And so that's how I'm framing this idea of fake news, where the enemy takes something that could be a little true or has a little twinge of experience to it and then starts building this own castle to this lie that we end up moving out of God's kingdom and we start taking up residence in that castle. I want to talk about where those lies come from and I want to introduce us to the truth that drowns them out. The most effective lies are the ones that do resemble some kind of truth and ones that end up getting told to us with conviction. But although that becomes an effective nature of a lie, there is only one place where the power of a lie rests. The impact of a lie will always rest with us. And you need to remember this throughout this entire series, this idea. The impact of a lie is dependent on what I do with it. A lie that is not believed and not acted upon is lifeless. It has no power of its own. We are the ones that give lies life. An ignored lie, when we just ignore a lie and we try to push it back, an ignored lie is just a deterred lie. It's going to surface again. Anybody have lies in your life that have seemingly on this cycle of repeat? Anybody? So just pushing down a lie doesn't take it off of the repeat cycle. The only thing that will destroy a lie is truth. Not just ignoring it, not pushing it back, but wrestling that puppy to the ground until you beat it. Now the truth is what defeats it. And I wrote this I don't know if I've got it on there, but on the contrary, truth is God-powered. Truth is God-powered. The power rests in what he says. But it's an interesting corollary because just like a lie has no impact until I believe it and I act on it, the truth of God doesn't have power in my life until I believe it and act on it. But it contains the power, but it's interesting. Unless I apply it, it doesn't fit me either. And that's why even just believing a half of a truth or half of a lie can have just as much impact on our lives, even if we're just 1 degree off. Several weeks ago, I asked you to tell me what lies circulate in your own brains. And I got a stack of cards and emails. One was particularly fascinating because it said, Pastor, you probably won't even get all of the responses that are out there because there are still too many lies being believed. That's how I read that email. That there's still unexposed lies that are still having such an impact on us. Why do we allow lies to drive us, even when we can point out that's a lie? I think we stick to a lie because it's been so long. We've been so long around it that it just feels true.
SpaceX has some satellites that basically do a little routine and crisscross the skyline, and it looks like this. So
people tried to guess what those are.
Yeah, I got a lot of calls into the newsroom tonight. The explanation is not that mysterious. It was a train of Starlight satellites from SpaceX.
Velocity. Oh, we can see it coming down through the plume.
Booster coming in hot for booster catch.
We're going to ignite 13 of those Raptor engines, and this view is incredible right now. You can see how fast this vehicle is moving on the left-hand screen.
Landing burn,
13
ignited. We're now down to 3 Raptor engines. We can see those chopsticks now in the air.
You could almost believe that this was CGI that was created for a movie. But the more SpaceX experiments with ideas, the more we'll be treated to unbelievable events like these.
Don't ever let them see you coming. That's the gap, my friend. You got to keep yourself small, innocuous. You be the little guy. I'm the hand of Mona Lisa's skirt. I'm a surprise, Kevin. They don't see me coming.
Have you ever asked God for forgiveness? That's a tough question. I don't think in terms of, I'm a religious person. Shockingly, because people are so shocked when they find this out, I'm Protestant, I'm Presbyterian. And I go to church and I love God and I love my church. And Norman Vincent Peale, the great Norman Vincent Peale was my pastor. The power of positive thinking. Everybody's heard of Norman Vincent Peale. He was so great. He would give a sermon you never wanted to leave. Sometimes we have sermons, and every once in a while we think about leaving a little early, right, even though we're Christian. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Frank, would give a sermon. I'm telling you, I still remember his sermons. It was unbelievable. And what he would do is he'd bring real-life situations, modern-day situations, into the sermon. And you could listen to him all day long. When you left the church, you were disappointed that it was over. He was the greatest guy. And then, you know, he passed away, but he was a great, he wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, which is a great book.
But have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
I'm not sure I have. I just go and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so. I think if I do something wrong, I think I just try and make it right. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't. Now, when I take, when we go in church and when I drink my little wine, which is about the only wine I drink, and have my little cracker, I guess that's a form of asking for forgiveness. And I do that as often as possible because I feel cleansed.